From a humble street food to the survival of an entire species, a chain reaction, sparked by our own desires, is quietly reshaping the world. When ancient tradition collides with modern capital, and an old world species meets a new world demand, a game with no winners begins to unfold. Hello everyone. Today, let's talk about something with a very peculiar origin. In certain parts of China, famous for a street food called lu huoshao, a delicious fire-baked bread stuffed with donkey meat, some honest, hard-working shop owners have started doing something bizarre. They've taken a marker and simply crossed out the word donkey meat on their signs, replacing it, in bold strokes, with horse meat. Now, isn't that a surreal act? In a business world where people try to pass off duck as lamb, this is a level of transparency that is almost comical. It's like meeting the world's most honest scammer. But this isn't about a sudden surge in the owner's moral fiber, nor is it because horse meat has suddenly become more delicious. It's because of a brutal underlying reality. We are eating the donkey into extinction. You heard me right. The donkey, that stubborn, melancholy-eyed creature, a cornerstone of human agriculture and philosophy for millennia, is disappearing from our planet at a speed you can see with your own eyes, especially in China. You might be thinking, so what? Who uses donkeys to pull a millstone anymore? Are tractors better? And you're not wrong. The problem is, while we no longer need donkeys for agricultural production, our demand for donkey consumption, specifically for certain donkey products, has exploded exponentially. Let's look at some cold, hard data to understand the demographic crisis facing the donkey world. Back in the 1990s, China was a donkey superpower, with a population of over 11 million, a full quarter of the world's total. By 2023, that number had plummeted to a shocking 1.46 million, from 11 million to less than 1.5 million. In just over 30 years, we have single-handedly eaten a species onto the waiting list for endangered status. So, why can't we just breed more donkeys? Well, this is where the problem lies. The donkey, as a species, is almost biologically designed to be anti-capitalist and anti-industrialization. Its reproductive cycle is a nightmare for modern agriculture. First, a donkey's gestation period is painfully long, about 12 to 13 months, longer than a human pregnancy. Second, they almost always give birth to a single foal, and it takes at least 3 years for that foal to grow large enough to slaughter. Think about that time cost. Your neighbor's pig is ready for market in 4 months. A sow gives birth to a whole litter at a time, several times a year. With a donkey, you're waiting 3 years just to see a return on your investment. Capital is the most intelligent and also the most impatient force on Earth. It seeks high turnover and high returns. It will glance at the donkey business plan, roll its eyes, and pour its money into chicken and pig farms that can be harvested in a matter of months. So while the supply side is in a state of collapse, the demand side is experiencing a massive boom, driven by 2 things. One is for the mouth, donkey meat. The other is for the soul, or so they say, a product called Ejiao. As the old saying goes, in heaven there is dragon meat, on earth there is donkey meat. Donkey meat has long been a delicacy, prized for being high in protein and low in fat. But the real catalyst, the thing that pushed the donkey into the ICU and started pulling the plugs, is Ejiao. What is Ejiao? Simply put, it's a gelatin block made from boiling donkey hides. In traditional Chinese medicine, it's considered a holy grail for nourishing yin and enriching the blood, and is especially popular among female consumers. Over the past decades, through the combined forces of capital and marketing, Ejiao has been transformed from a regional folk remedy to a national luxury-grade health product. Its price has soared nearly 100-fold in 15 years, rising faster and more furiously than real estate in a Tier 1 city. This is the Hermes playbook. By constantly raising the price, you create an air of scarcity and prestige, turning the consumption of Ejiao into a symbol of status and a high-quality lifestyle. When the value of a single donkey hide was inflated to be worth more than the rest of the donkey combined, the world changed for the species. China's domestic donkey population couldn't come close to meeting the demand. At least 5 million donkeys are needed annually for Ejiao production, but China can only supply less than 2 million. The massive shortfall had to be imported. So Chinese buyers, armed with enormous capital, began a global shopping spree, turning their sights to places with large donkey populations, like the continent of Africa. This sounds like a win-win story, doesn't it? China gets its raw materials, and African farmers get extra income. And at first it was, but when a massive, almost infinite external demand floods a fragile traditional local market, the story begins to lose control. For many poor families in Africa, a donkey is not a cash asset. It is their means of survival. It is a tractor that doesn't need fuel, a pickup truck without a license plate, the school bus for their children. A single donkey supports a family's livelihood, but when the price of a donkey hide was bid up to several $100s, often exceeding the animal's value as a living tool, the darkest parts of human nature were unleashed. What began as selling a spare donkey became selling the only donkey. Then it became stealing the neighbor's donkey. Theft, robbery, and the brutal slaughter of donkeys just for their skin became rampant across the continent. Kenya lost half of its donkey population in 3 years. This was no longer trade. It was a resource plunder tragedy, ignited by globalized consumerism. African governments soon woke up to the crisis. One by one, they began to issue bans on the donkey hide trade. Finally, last year, the African Union approved a 15-year continent-wide ban. Just like that, the largest overseas pipeline for China's Ejiao industry was shut off. And so we trace the story back from a small shop changing its sign in Hebei province, and we find a vast, complex global chain. It connects the helplessness of a local business owner, the health anxieties of the Chinese middle class, the survival struggles of an African farmer, the profit-seeking nature of global capital, and the existential crisis of a species, all because of its own biology. There are no absolute villains here. Consumers wanting a better life is not wrong. Corporations pursuing profit is their nature. But the result for the donkey has been catastrophic. They did nothing wrong. It's just that their skin happened to become the gold that triggered this era's ravenous demand. The final bitter irony, many doctors and scientists have long pointed out that the miraculous health claims of Ejiao lack rigorous scientific proof, that it is, in essence, just boiled donkey skin with a nutritional profile not much different than pork gelatin. And yet this belief has propped up a multi-billion-dollar market and pushed a global species to the brink. This story is a stark reminder that every consumer act, no matter how personal, can become part of a tidal wave powerful enough to cause a tsunami on the other side of the world. Years from now, our descendants might stand in a museum, point to a taxidermy donkey, and say, "Look, that's the legendary meat on Earth. Our ancestors ate them into oblivion because their skin was too valuable." That would be the greatest, most surreal tragedy of our time. A poet of our modern age might say, "The baker's sign, a truth both stark and grim, for horse, not donkey, fills the pastry rim. A species dwindles, a slow and steady fall, for Ejiao's price has mesmerized them all. From Africa's plains, a brutal trade takes flight, extinguishing a poor man's guiding light. For capital's great thirst can never cease, while a gentle creature finds no lasting peace." That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.